This video is gonna be a bit shorter than usual. It was supposed to go in the Allied Assault video, but then it got too much. I decided to have the Frontline video be a bit of a paired video to that one. Anyways, the bar was set high in January 2002 with Allied Assault, so nerfs were running high as well. Medal of Honor Frontline was set to release in May of that same year. Even after Allied Assault was praised as an iconic game, Frontline managed to impress as well. It wasn't just a console port, it was its very own experience with its own levels and narrative. The game does contain many references to Allied Assault though. Even sections that were borrowed, like the D-Day landings, were redesigned to showcase a different way of depicting it. The majority of the game takes place during Market Garden, but the positive response to the D-Day mission led to it being added to this game as well. It wasn't without its fault, however. Many complained about clunky controls and awkward aiming sensitivity. So how does this game feel looking back? Well, let's find out. You start in the landing craft and the invasion is fully underway. Ships cover the horizon and planes fly overhead. As you get near to the shore, the fire gets heavier, and when the ramp finally drops, you take a direct hit. Here it's definitely a lot more cinematic and seems to borrow shots straight from Saving Private Ryan. When you emerge from the water and enter the battle, the atmosphere once again is just fear and chaos. I think they do a better job at creating that atmosphere here than in Allied Assault. I do, however, prefer the Allied Assault depiction. Here's why. In Allied Assault, the level is designed in such a way that makes you feel completely pinned down. The slightest movement can cost you your life when utilizing the minimal amount of cover that you have. So what's it like in this game? Here you go from pinned down soldier to soldier and help them continue up the beach. You're basically bunny hopping across the whole beach from position to position. The assault doesn't feel as deadly here. Anyways, after helping the soldiers move and escorting this engineer, you blow a hole in the barricade and make your way to the bunker. Here you dash across the minefield to get to this machine gun that you can use to destroy these other machine guns. After that you go through this trench and you get to the next level. Now it's time to clear the bunkers and signal the naval artillery. That's basically your business in this level. You go through taking out anyone in your way, and then you meet this guy outside at the end. That concludes the D-Day level. This was pretty short compared to the other mission, but it makes sense when you remember the fact that this was added last minute during development. In this level, you'll be sneaking aboard a U-boat which will take you to one of Germany's most high-end U-boat bases. You start in these hedgerows after being dropped in. After collecting your toy box from the resistance, you can move out. You stumble upon a chaotic scene right off the bat as you watch some of your comrades crash, which is followed by a firefight. Next, you'll be helping your surviving comrade through the town. It's in ruins. It's being bombed and shelled even as you go through. This really helps the sense of scale. There's a bigger battle going on around you. Eventually you make contact with a whole infantry squad that's having some trouble with this tank. You fight a tough fight across the bridge and destroy it. After mowing down more Germans, you get back out into the countryside. Here you arrive at the harbor and get on the U-boat. As you arrive, you fight your way through the cram U-boat interior, place charges, and sabotage various components. Now you leave to sabotage the U-boat production itself. The facility is dark and quiet. You get what you expect from a Medal of Honor game. You creep through the shadows and jump unsuspecting guards. The area is relatively open and there's snipers. When you get to this rooftop, you can watch the fireworks. After this, you make your way through the facility through ambushes and various obstacles. You steal stuff and destroy things. At the end, you get to use a turret to destroy the fuel depot. After that, the mission is over, and now we get to the actual market garden part of the game. You'll be going to Klevburg. An informant has gone missing and you need to find him. You start a little distance away from the city as there is a huge German presence in the area. You make contact with your squad mate. You find a paratrooper that has gotten stuck on a mill, but he is taken out. From here, the action picks up immediately. Here in the first level, you're searching for tanks with your demolitions expert. You just gotta cover him as he moves up to destroy the tank. You go through a variety of different environments, through small villages, hedgerows, and open fields. Each present a different challenge. In the open, Germans will start shooting at you from across the field, and in the villages you'll be ambushed from the houses. You also get to use a Nebelwerfer. The atmosphere that's set has quite a sad tinge. As the fighting goes on, you have this choir that has an almost angelic sound. It speaks to the killing. Eventually you get to Klevburg. Here you gotta cause a distraction to flush the Germans out. At this point you should be carrying some kerosene, however I completely missed it, so I had to go back through the entire level to retrieve it by this bonfire. Then you set this mill alight and shoot the guards as they leave. Now you're in the city and you're alone. It's dark and there's a palpable tension in the atmosphere. You encounter some Germans right away and continue through alleys until you get to the waterfront. Here the level opens up, so it's almost impossible not to get spotted immediately. From here you can go collect a sabotage kit that you use to disable these cars. After that, you go and make contact with the missing informant. Here you have this segment where you are in an open area like a square or a courtyard, and you have to go around sabotaging cars and alarms while fending off the Germans. These parts are separated by these car sequences where you shoot from the back of the informant's truck. However, in these parts, you are sometimes forced to leave the truck and fight on foot. Eventually you get to the pub. Here you cause a bit of chaos among the drunk Germans so you can escape with another resistance fighter. You arrive at this manor where you can find more resistance fighters. You sneak in while wearing a disguise. Once you get inside, it's weapons free. You fight your way through the manor, stealing documents, meeting the resistance, and breaking out Gerrit, the informant. I really like the way this manor looks. There is this part where you gotta destroy clocks to find hidden documents, but the sheer amount of clocks give the whole level an almost cartoonish feel. When that's over, you push Gerrit off the roof, steal a car, and you're on the road again. Here you're gonna be smuggled to Emmerich from Arnhem. To do this you gotta cross a bridge, but said bridge is heavily guarded and rigged to blow. You must not let that happen. You're on your own when you get to the bridge. You deal with the guards and get beneath the bridge. It's here that you'll be disarming the explosives. The bridge consists of multiple segments where you gotta repeat this process. At one point you're even able to climb up onto the top. When you've disarmed all the charges, you're not done yet. There's still an AA gun to destroy. You go down this open road and fight your way through this bunker, and on top you find it. After destroying it, you escape in a medical supply truck. Now you're taking it to Arnhem, where the British are still holding out. To start off, you'll be clearing the way for the truck. It needs to be able to get through these checkpoints. You repeat this several times as you go through the German positions. After that, you need to find a German HQ and destroy a radio. To get there, you have this really cool section where you go through backyards and engage in close quarters combat. But they are laid out along this long open alley that is covered by snipers. You gotta be fast when you cross it. Eventually, you destroy the radio and leave to find the men. The atmosphere of this last level is breathtaking. The angelic choir is back with this beautiful sadness as you move through a loud, chaotic battlefield. This level is pure chaos. You save various men that are pinned down around Arnhem. The Allies lose this battle and the game portrays it well. The beautiful music over the chaotic battle. It's a very interesting and moving contrast and is used quite a lot in media, but it always works on me for some reason. The mission ends as you make contact with this man. Now you're targeting a German officer by the name of Sturmgeist. You have to sneak aboard his train and kill him. You steal an officer's uniform and make your way into the train station. What you do here is just fight your way to Sturmgeist's train. This train station brings both cram and open arenas. Everything feels smooth. After a tough fight, you arrive at Sturmgeist's train and board. This next part of the mission is quite interesting. You fight your way along the train through the various choke points. Every once in a while, the Germans will roll up next to you in a different train. It's quite the action sequence. Medal of Honor has never really hidden the fact that, although it tries to stay true to history, it is supposed to be an action flick. You are basically a super agent here. When you reach the end, Sturmgeist has separated the locomotive from the train and is riding off into the night. He has evaded you. Now you're stranded several miles from your destination. Thankfully, you can simply follow the railroad. But there are German hardpoints along the whole track. You encounter one right away and they're well fortified. Shortly after that, you make it to this industrial station. In here, the fighting gets quite tough. The Germans are everywhere all around you. After getting through here, you use these small rail cars to get around. Eventually, you get to more industrial complexes that you sabotage, and eventually you have open road in front of you. Now you must enter Sturmgeist's jet manufacturing plant. Take all the intel you can and radio the exact location to Allied bombers. You start by going through this vent. This mission doesn't really bring anything new. Pretty classic Medal of Honor. You sneak around, steal stuff while clearing various arenas. There is this part though where you kill these scientists with a massive fan. It also had these arenas that had a pretty interesting design. Basically it's a maze, but there are catwalks suspended above. You can easily see from up there, but also easily be seen. Eventually you descend into the mine. Here you have to take this cart to the far side of the facility, where you can steal the experimental jet. This part ended up being quite difficult actually, even though it's pretty short. You just roll through and shoot at whoever is shooting at you. You get to your destination. Here you move through the base, braving various hardpoints while disabling antennas. It's got some pretty difficult parts like this open plaza with rocket launchers and machine guns, but it is nothing compared to what you're about to go through once you catch up with Sturmgeist. First, you're in this plane where you get completely swarmed by enemies. And when I say swarmed, I really do mean swarmed. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to figure out that you're actually supposed to chase after Sturmgeist. You run into more groups of Germans as you close in. Then you have a boss fight. Here you just gotta shoot Sturmgeist until he dies, and then you steal the experimental jet. The last shot you get is Allied bombs hitting the facility as you take off to the heavens. Then the game ends. It's easy to see why this game was so loved. The World War II setting was made interesting with some sci-fi insertions, and it had incredible action sequences. Like Allied Assault, it does fall short on delivering an authentic portrayal of World War II. Looking back, this does feel like a bare-bone shooter, but it's important to remember that back in 2002, this game was groundbreaking. The more simplified controls allowed for a much faster pace and smoother level flow. They incorporated interesting gimmicks like the minecart and the train to make the gameplay loop less stale. The general atmosphere of the game feels a lot like in Allied Assault. You can feel this blanket of tension covering every level. It's incredible how good they are at maintaining this tension. The atmosphere is also relatively constant. It's more or less the same throughout the entire game, which does tie the whole thing together nicely. As for the story, like previous Medal of Honor titles, there's basically no other plot point other than win the war. You do missions for the OSS. They do try a bit by having Sturmgeist, the final boss, be a recurring character over multiple levels. Anyways, that was it for today. See ya.